Chapter 8. Rob's eyes were open in the total darkness. The room was so dark, when he would blink his vision would stay the same. Sometimes it was hard for him to tell whether his eyes were even open or closed in between the blinks. He saw everything that happened to the Allen family. There had been no abstract interpretation in that dream. He had seen it exactly as it had happened. He thought that particular dream was very unusual in that it was very detailed and very realistic. The dreams were becoming more and more literal. His own set of eyes had not seen it happen, but it was also not from a third-person point of view from the floating cloud above either. It was through the stranger's eyes that he saw the killings. It was very intense. He didn't feel as if he'd slept at all. He probably would have been more rested if he had just stayed awake all night. Since he went to sleep, he'd ransacked a house, killed a man, and raped a little girl. Those were not his usual pastimes in his dreamland. Where had that come from? Despite the extreme fatigue and darkening circles under his eyes, he would not be going back to sleep that night. He was utterly freaked. It had been so damned real. How late was it? Would Sue still be up? Would she even be home from work yet? He rolled over and checked the clock after flicking on the bedside lamp. His vision needed a minute to adjust. It felt like it took longer than that. Those wide black holes to the soul that were his pupils were taking forever to shrink. Finally, they did. The clock's red glowing LCD said that it was just after 3 o'clock. She would have been home for just a bit by that time. He picked up the phone and called. He got her machine. "This is Sue," it said in her voice. Then another voice popped in. "And Michelle." It went back to Sue's voice. "Leave a message after the beep." It beeped. "Hey, Sue, it's Rob. Sorry to call so late. I was just calling to talk. I was just having really weird dreams and, well, it's nothing. Give me a call when you get this if you want." "Rob?" Sue had picked up the phone and was breathing heavily. There was ear-piercing feedback. "Oh, how do you turn off this goddamn thing?" There was a loud click, and then the feedback went away. "Oh, hey, Sue. Sorry, I just got in. What's up?" "Not a lot, really. Can you talk?" "Sure." He told her about the dream in every detail. He said everything was culminating to a point where he felt like he was going mad. He divulged the conversation he had with his mother, including the memories that were brought back up. A few days ago, he had been fine, relatively, but he felt as if someone had stuck a stick into the muddy bottom of the clear pond of his soul and stirred it, making the water all murky. He hated sleeping in a bed alone after all those years of sharing it with his best friend. He barely had any emotional room left to worry about being fired and denied unemployment. On top of all of it, he was too scared from a nightmare to get any rest. "You are the most patient person in the world to be listening to all of this," he said to her gratefully. "Not at all. My life is so humdrum these days. This is much more interesting. Can you believe I screwed up a guy's ham and Swiss order? Exciting, huh? I'm jealous. I would have loved to have had a day like that." "Me too, actually," she said after a short pause. They chuckled. "You know what?" she asked. He bit. "What?" "I think you should come over. You can sleep here." He considered it and came to a realization that she really was a true friend. "You know what?" She bit. "What?" "That would be really nice. Are you sure it won't be any imposition?" "Not at all. It'll be fun. We'll make it a horror movie and popcorn sleepover kind of thing." "Well, it doesn't have to be horror movies." "I think I can still take them. They can't even compare right now." "Is your life even worse than Jaws Part 4? "Well, maybe it's not that bad, thanks for the perspective." "What about Michelle? Is she staying there? Is she going to be okay with having company so late?" He asked these 3 questions back to back, not giving enough pause for her to answer right away. Finally, she got a word in edgewise. "Yes, she is living here, and she's a vampire like us, so it's fine. It's been working out really great having her here. I can't really afford this place on my own. She's really cool. You'll like her." "Great. I'll be over soon to get you." "See ya," Rob said, and then hung up. He went and took a quick shower to rinse off the nightmare sweat and then got ready. She was there in about 20 minutes. They rode back to her place talking and singing along to the radio, happily but badly. He was already feeling 100 times better. When they got there, Michelle was sitting on the sofa with a bowl of popcorn. The whole apartment smelled comforting of the buttery goodness. She rose to meet them. She was a very pretty blonde girl around their age. She wiped her salt and butter-covered fingers on her jogging pants and then offered her hand to Rob. He smiled and took it. "Hi, I'm Michelle." "Rob, nice to meet you." "You too." "I hope I'm not bothering you guys so late." "Not at all. Sue just got off her shift like an hour ago, and besides, we're always up late anyway. Night owls rule." "I'm going to have to start becoming one again now that I don't have to get up so early." "Why?" she asked. "I recently got the axe." "Wow," she said cheerily. He saw her wheels turn for a moment, and then she added, "Hey, you should come work at the diner with us." "Sure, I'll take anything I can get. I'll come in later this week and fill out an application." Oh, please, I'll just tell John to hire you or I'll kick him in the balls. I've been looking for an excuse anyway. That would be so much fun, Sue piped up. Rob working there, I mean. Not that you kicking John in the balls wouldn't be fun, Michelle. Uh-huh, she responded with a mouthful of fresh popcorn. The three of us all working together, we'll scare the hell out of the regulars. They laughed and made their way to the sofa. They had all clicked together immediately. Rob was relieved. At sunup they all went to bed. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. The bedrooms were right across from each other on opposite sides of the living room. Sue's bedroom door was by the TV and Michelle's was behind the sofa. Sue told Rob to sleep in her room and that she would crash with Michelle. Are you sure I'm not putting you out? I could sleep on the sofa. Don't be silly, it's lumpy as hell. If you want to be able to walk upright when you wake up, take the damn bed. Okay, thanks. They said their goodnights and went to their rooms. The mid-afternoon rolled around and they got up. They hung out for a while, but then Sue and Michelle had to leave for work. They were both responsible for closing the diner that night. Rob watched some television and then his stomach started to growl. Sue had given him permission to raid the refrigerator, but he didn't want to abuse their hospitality. He went for a walk. There was a grocery shopping plaza just a few blocks away. There was a Burger King in it, and Rob was craving a combo meal. He was almost there, walking east on the south side of the street, when he noticed an elderly lady lying in the intersection. She was still lying there, struggling to get up off the hard asphalt when the light was ready to turn green. Rob's heart sped up. He couldn't bear to see her get rolled over by the impatient line of cars waiting to go. The light changed. He sprinted up to the crosswalk where a red hand had its palm up to him. Some passers-by began running up to her and trying to lift her. She had rolled over onto her back. He saw that these people were kids from the junior high school just up the way. Some adults were with them, and Rob assumed that they were parents. He thought, for a moment, that he didn't need to be one more person in the crowd, or just another audience member for what was probably a very embarrassing time for the old woman. Just then, their grips on her upper arms slipped. There was a teenager holding each of her arms, but for some reason she had eluded their grasp. She fell back on her spine and cried out from the impact. The red hand was still showing that traffic was not in her favor. Drivers were going around her and honking to be let into a clear lane. The light was beginning to turn again, and there she was, still in the middle of the road. Rob ran towards her. He was just past the center line when a Jeep came barreling around the line of cars, fed up and not waiting anymore. Rob's first thought was that it might roll over the lady's head, squashing it like a grape. He had a flash memory of waiting for the bus to pick him up after work, 2 jobs ago. There had been a wounded pigeon stumbling for its way out of the road. He had run for it, bent over with his arms outstretched, and it had just run from him and right under the wheels of a moving van. It exploded in a cyclone of feathers. He was downtrodden and went back to his bus stop where another future passenger was laughing at what had just happened. Rob hadn't seen any humor in it at all. He was almost at the old lady when there was a sudden impact on his right side. The wind had been knocked from his lungs. The weight stopped pressing, and the next thing he knew, he was flying through the intersection. The street was quickly coming up to meet him, but he was seeing it in slow motion. He hit it and went rolling. He saw street sky, countless times. He ended up on his left side several feet in front of the white Jeep that had struck him. He heard its screeching tires still echoing in his head. The lady who had been driving got out and ran up to him. The people who had been helping the old lady had stopped and were gawking at him instead. "I'm so sorry," said the driver. "You ran right into the road. The light was still green." She was starting to shout. Rob sat up. "Maybe you shouldn't do that," she said as she grimaced. "I'm all right," he said back. His left arm was sore from the shoulder down to his elbow, but that was pretty much all. Just getting the breath back into his lungs was the most painful part. He turned onto his hands and knees and stood up. The driver stood up with him. "Are you okay? I think I hit you pretty hard. It wasn't my fault, though." He looked at her, squinted, and said, "I'm fine." He added a somewhat sarcastic, "Thank you." "Oh, thank God. I can drive you somewhere, maybe the hospital. They can check you over at least. I'm insured," she said loudly, more for the benefit of the staring crowd. "No, I'm all right. You can go." She looked back at her empty Jeep with the hazards on. It just happened to be blocking traffic from the old lady. Just go," Rob said grumpily. "Are you sure?" she asked, feigning concern, but with relief being the more obvious tone in her voice. She looked around at all the witnesses. "Maybe I should give you my—" "Go!" he yelled. She jumped and trotted back to her vehicle. He started towards the old lady, who was oblivious to anything else going on around her. The people around her just stared at him with shocked expressions on their faces. "Well, let's get her up," he barked. The 2 kids that had been trying to lift her got their hands between the street and her body and pulled. Rob helped lift her head and upper back. She weighed very little. Finally, she was upright. They got her to the sidewalk. They were still holding her up, though. The traffic roared past to make up for lost time. "Ma'am, can you stand on your own?" Rob asked her. She reached out one shriveled and spotted hand and grabbed her shopping cart to steady herself. The cart had been luckier than she had. It had made it up to the sidewalk, full of groceries and unharmed, but when she tried to follow it out of the street, her foot had gotten caught in the gutter and down she went. As soon as she set her right foot down, she cried out. The kids immediately let go of her out of some misguided instinct. Rob had to wrap his arms around her to keep her from falling again. She felt so frail. He could feel the ribs in her back. It was as if she had a tissue paper thin skin just gently draped over her spongy skeleton. She was wearing a white blouse and white pants with a red bandana covering her hair, if she had any. She was such a tiny thing. There was a bus stop bench just a few feet away. It was covered in bags that belonged to the old guy sitting on the end of it. "Sir, you want to clear a seat?" Rob half-asked, half-stated. The old man ignored him. "Do you speak English? I said clear a seat!" The old guy seemed to understand that time and eagerly got his bags and set them on the ground. "Ma'am, let's make it to that bench, okay? Can you sit?" She weakly responded, "Yes, I think so. Don't drop me now." Rob assured her that he would not. They slowly made their way to the bench. The onlookers did just that. They looked on. "Go and see if anything fell out of my purse and into the street," the lady said to Rob. "Are you okay to sit by yourself?" he asked her, wondering if she even had the strength to keep herself propped up. She nodded. "All right, then. I'll go look and I'll bring your groceries over to you." He looked in the gutter, the street, and on the sidewalk, but there was nothing there. He brought her rattling cart over beside her and asked, "Do you think anything might be broken?" "Oh, I'm sure it is. My hip certainly is, and maybe my foot, too. Can you take me home?" "Well, maybe we should call an ambulance for you." No, I don't want an ambulance. I just want to go home. I live only a few blocks away. Will you take me?" "I don't have a car or a cab fare, really." "Well, what am I going to do? I have to call my mother." Mother? Rob thought that the woman looked to be in her late 80s at the youngest. One of the two teens that had helped her up said to him, "Just take her home, man." "Do you have a car?" Rob asked him. "No?" "Then shut the fuck up." He turned back to the old lady. "I'm going to try to call a friend to give us a ride to your home. Will that be okay?" "Yes," she said, relieved. "When we get there, can we call someone to come over and look at you?" "Well, we'll see," she responded somewhat smugly in her stubbornness. Rob ran down the block, leaving her to be stared at, and made his way to the payphone. On his way there, he spotted a police car. He ran up to it, waving his arms. There was a man driving with his lady partner in the passenger seat. He ran up to her rolled-down window. "Excuse me," he said to them, slightly out of breath. "An elderly lady fell down up the road, and I think she broke her hip." The female officer just raised an eyebrow at her partner. "She needs a ride?" Rob was looking back and forth at them, wondering what the hell their reluctance was. The entire city seemed to be in a sort of stupor. "Okay," she said. "We'll drive up there." They did while Rob ran after the car. He saw them pull up to the bus stop, exit their car, and move their way through the small crowd and up to the old lady. He soon caught up. They were asking her what had happened. She told them. They had pretty much the same exact conversation he'd had with her already. She strongly did not want to go to the hospital. Just then, the bus pulled up. The small crowd got on, and it pulled away with them. Rob realized he was alone with the old lady and the officers. If he had not walked over, would she still be laying there in the street? The thought that at first he did not want to bother her or any of her so-called helpers began to really annoy him. The officers were informing the old lady that despite her objections, the paramedics were on their way. She was moderately upset. They asked her for her information, and when they got to her phone number, she just couldn't remember it. She recited a few random numbers before trailing off to search through scratched pieces of paper in her purse, which the wind ripped from her hand like the most non-celebratory confetti. "Grab those for me," she told Rob. He scrambled and managed to get a few of the scraps of paper. He saw a phone number scribbled on one of them. He pointed it out to her and asked if that was it. She said it was. The gentleman officer was talking to dispatch about the ambulance arrival on his walkie-talkie. The female officer asked Rob for his information as well, which he willingly gave. When the medical assistants arrived, the officer said they would take over and shook his hand and sent him on his way. He walked towards the Burger King, still surprisingly hungry, but he watched over his shoulder as they got out the stretcher and loaded her in. She seemed to be cooperative for the most part. He was glad. He ordered his bacon burger with fries and substituted the soda for a strawberry shake. He got it to go. Rob ate back at Sue's apartment at the living room coffee table while watching TV. He was feeling all right, just a little bit sore in his arm. There was just a twinge left of the depression that, just the day before, had been threatening to completely destroy him. Thank God for Sue. He really did need his little escape.